AskReddit by Vegina. What is a dead giveaway that someone is an only child? I told my BF to close his eyes and open his mouth. I was surprising him with candy, and he just did it with no suspicion at all. People with siblings can't trust like that. My friend jokingly threw a tea towel at me and I let it land on me. She said that was classic only child behavior to not instantly throw it back and try to hit her with it. I'm an only child. One huge difference I see time and time again with those who have siblings: they had much more exposure to longer time span of media, music, games growing up. My idea of nostalgia consists of my specific timeline of media growing up, but those with siblings were able to watch TV shows their older brother watched, or knows about that game their little sister played. Yeah, the media you get is what your parents get for you. So PS2 was my only console since I requested one for my birthday, and that's really it. Bigger families might have older siblings have older consoles, media, movies, etc. I heard once only children are less likely to announce where they are going when they leave a room. Right away I realized I do that, but my partner who grew up with two sisters tells me where he's about to go when he moves, even if it's to the bathroom. Now that I'm in my 30s, I've trained myself to say where I'm going when I leave a room, but it still feels so awkward when I do it. I also distinctly remember being confused in my first few relationships when people told me they were going to the restroom, okay, and irritated when I would get up to go and they'd ask me where I'm going. Like, we're in a 1BR apartment and I'm not walking out the door. There are only so many options. My BF is an only child, and it was his confusion at how I can be mad at my sister, who is also my roommate, 1 minute and turn around and get ice cream or go see a movie together. He grew up with a bunch of cousins around his age, but it was the quick turnaround of "I'm so mad at you" to "I wanna hang out, let's do something." Hypothesis: I think we don't have practice of dealing with conflict. I had an argument with someone a few years back and I fully expected it to be awkward between us when we saw each other the next day, but she, not an only child, started chatting with me like everything was fine. I was taken aback and thought this would have lasted for much longer. My husband hates sharing food. He is also very good at keeping himself entertained and busy. This was very evident during COVID when I was so bored and lost because all my previous hobbies and pastimes were outside the home and or social activities. However, he just kept going and picked up so many new little hobbies that were independent. I have a brother and I hate sharing food as well. Some people say that having siblings can teach you to share things, but, if anything, having a brother made me extra selfish. Also, I'm very good at keeping myself busy as well. I was always sort of the black sheep of the family, being pretty much the only nerd, heavily into gaming, still am, and big lone attendances, while my brother is normal and much more sociable than I'll ever be. Thinking friendship is like having siblings. It's not. I would never smash a toy on my friend's head and expect them to speak to me after. I wouldn't have teamed up with my best friends against their parents, or refused to listen to their parents, but me and my sister? Like a two-man army in an us versus our parents battle. From personal experience, food habits. Like buying snacks to store at home and fully expecting them to not have been touched when you're gone, or eating slower at the dinner table because you're not fighting over the good food. As a teen, on the rare occasion my dad would steal a snack I got for myself, I'd freak out, whereas my friends with siblings just resigned themselves to the fate of snacks inevitably disappearing. My mom eats super fast at meals, and she attributes it largely to growing up with siblings. Also, they haven't had as much practice with dividing food X times. Me and my siblings are good at doing pretty perfect three-way divisions of food because the rule was that whoever cut the item chose their piece last. A real incentive to make everything as perfectly equal as possible. No tales of sibling violence. Doesn't flinch when someone makes a fist quickly. I'm the only child in my family. My mom said she learns from her mistakes. On the other hand, I have 5 siblings and none are from the same father. My mom never learns from her mistakes. Pretty good at keeping ourselves entertained or doing things alone, being independent. And I find that most of us need alone time. I can be pretty sociable, but it can get overwhelming quick. I need alone time every day or my stress levels rise to a point where I can't handle it. Even in a relationship, if we spend all day home, I must be able to do my thing while he does his thing. This has caused me issues in the past, as if I didn't care to be around my partner. I can't tell for adults, but when it's one of my kids' friends, the kid who ends up trying to hang out with the adults and gets overwhelmed by being in a group of kids has been an only child 100% of the time in my experience. Yes. I teach middle school, and I can usually spot the only kids by seeing which students gravitate towards chatting with me rather than their peers during downtime. They seem more comfortable and confident just hanging out with the older person in the room. From my own experience, not being as prone to loneliness. The only time I really feel lonely is when I'm around people I'd rather not be with. You can very quickly detect when you don't fit in or are a third wheel too. Kind of sucks, but it means you don't waste your time with people either. I am an only child. I've noticed I tend to make a lot of life choices on my own and don't seek out a lot of advice or ask for help when I could definitely use it. In fact, I've been pretty deep in tough situations when I finally have the realization that there are people and resources I can utilize. It's not so much I'm worried about asking for help. More like it doesn't even register in my brain that there is help outside of myself. The inherent guilt of troubling people and asking for help. Only child here. As a kid, I couldn't relate to other children. Their behavior was completely foreign to me. Even now that I'm old, most people seem odd. Man, this hits the nail on the head. I always had a tough time relating to other kids and fitting in because I never learned how to be a kid. Always hung around with adults. On a more positive note, from personal experience, being secure with doing things alone. Edit. It's wild getting so many responses. This conversation really resonates with people. It's a fantastic study in how people really can't be put into nice little boxes. Everyone responds differently to life. Ironically, my wife is the opposite. She was an only child because of a couple of tragedies before she was born. Because of that, her mom was a little overbearing when it came to things. The result is that now as an adult, my wife hates being alone. Like, I go for a walk at night and it's non-stop texts making sure I'm okay, and then I come home to her telling me she can't sleep when I'm gone. They are very deliberate in their chosen relationships, for example friendships, partners, and are usually extremely independent, at least in my experience. Now suddenly everything makes sense to me. Parent of an only. I'd say the ability to talk to adults at a young age and perhaps would rather talk to adults as a teen. Everyone is so impressed by my 6-year-old because of the way she talks to adults and her vocabulary. I can't count the number of times people have used the word gifted, but the reality is that, academically, she's pretty middle of the road. She just has 2 parents who never baby talk to her and don't talk down to her. They enjoy quiet houses. Yes. My child gets overwhelmed when family comes over. He says often, "They are so loud." I don't think so. We're just a very quiet family. Interesting read. As an only child, maybe myself and others who I know are only children were raised differently, but I don't really see the lack of social skills and being unable to share things. From talking to others, people have noted I am pretty comfortable being alone or being in silence, which I thought was interesting. Yes, being an only child made me comfortable with solitude and silence too. It also imparted the ability to entertain myself without external stimuli. But I'm sure those parts of me come off as antisocial to some. They're very quiet roommates in my experience. sometimes don't even know when they're home. I hypothesize that they're just used to quiet spaces and might feel uncomfortable when their surroundings get loud or chaotic. People with siblings are used to other people clanging around and making noise. They need more alone time and aren't scared of being home by themselves. When they are planning to go somewhere or do something, they don't tell anyone or announce it. They just go do it. As adults, they tend to live alone rather than with roommates, if circumstances allow it. If their parents are either super young or super old compared to their peers' parents, it's more likely they're the only kid. Yeah, I'm an only child of a single mom and spend enormous amounts of time home alone as a child. Can confirm, I'm extremely quiet. Their pets are referred to as their siblings. When I moved out, my dad immediately replaced me with a dog. I walked in on him reading him a picture book. They don't have any siblings. Facts. As an only child, I've been yelled at by multiple friends for wandering off alone, especially in grocery stores, without telling anyone where I'm going. And also my automatic backseat of a car position legs out across the seats. IDK though, those are the only differences I ever notice. That they get blamed for everything. I'm an only child and so is my daughter. I go to great lengths to avoid telling her she's ruined the day weekend event or whatever, because it ruined my self-esteem as a kid. Sometimes it felt like you were a scapegoat for someone's bad mood because it was easier to blame a single child than a small tribe of them. They have all the Legos. Apparently I'm an only child. I don't know how I'm going to break that news to my parents, but my brother is sure not going to like finding out this way. He's about to find out he doesn't exist? Awkward. This has actually taught me a lot about myself. I ghost the fuck out of people and often don't say bye when leaving an event. I hate sharing food. I'm very independent and don't mind traveling or going out to eat alone. I have a low tolerance for noise. I'm pretty darn stubborn. Feel the weight of my parents' wants and dreams for me, hard. And I have a decent amount of friends, because with no subs to entertain me, my folks would usually let me take a buddy everywhere instead. Thanks op. They can get shit done without asking for help. Example, I've had people calling me to assist them in making the bed because they needed somebody to hold the other corner of the sheet. Dude, this is not a 2 people job. I was doing something else and you require assistance with a piece of cotton. Same goes for putting together furniture. Takes 2 people to assemble. Sure. It takes 2 people to assemble unless they are an only child, then it just takes the one. I love this take. I'm an only child, adult, who's had to deal with earth-shattering family situations with no one to fall back on. Deleted. If he keeps getting calls asking him about his whereabouts when he is out. That's the only style to control freak parents. I'm one of these lol.